Hey everybody, Man of Steven here. Just want to give my quick thoughts on Restore the Snyderverse. So Restore the Snyderverse. Now, those who don't know me, or maybe you know me a little bit, I am a big fan of Superman, all versions of Superman. I love the Snyderverse. Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Ultimate Edition, Zack Snyder's Justice League. That is, for me, is the best trilogy of films ever made, including anything Lord of the Rings, Back to the Future, you name it, it's my favourite trilogy. Now, that's not to say that I am what people might call a Snyder cultist. I am a big Snyder fan. I don't really like the term Snyder cultist that much because you get like the same with, they call them the Gunts, don't the James Gunn fans, who were James Gunn fans. I quite like James Gunn as well. I'm just a fan of DC characters in general, and one of the big things for me is I like to see stories finished. I don't want to see, I wouldn't want to watch Lord of the Rings and watch Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and then you don't get Return of the King. It's like, well, what kind of happens there then? Or, Star Wars ends at Empire Strikes Back, which is the best Star Wars film in my opinion, but you still need to see that end where Luke defeats Vader. You can't have it without it. And for me, the Zack Snyder Superman story in particular, for me, is not finished. And while I don't necessarily think they should get like the Batfleck movie, Zack Snyder's Justice League 2, 3, Wonder Woman 3, all Cyborg, all this kind of stuff. Now, I think there's got to be a bit of a realistic expectation here. Now, I'm not saying people can't ask for those things. We are fans, we can do what the hell we want. It's not, within reason. You've got to be, what's the word I'm looking for? You've got to kind of be like respectful the way you act about stuff. But for me, my interactions with the Snyder fans, the ones I'm friends with, they're all fine. They're not unreasonable people. And for me, I don't want to see Zack Snyder Justice League 2 and 3, the Batfleck movie, and then that means that the DCEU goes away, because I'm quite enjoying the DCEU, even though I have got some issues with the DCEU that I'm going to bring up in another video, but this isn't really the time for that. So for me, I think there's got to be a reasonable expectation of an ask. And if you go all the way back to when the Snyder Cut came out, which was huge, like the Snyder Cut was monumental. I don't care what anybody says, that the fact that film got made, got released, and the hype and furore around it was incredible. And it was probably the last time the fans were kind of united to an extent. You've still got, your issues. But everyone was kind of like in a good place, and there was like a buzz. And then the Ann Sarnoff article came out, and she basically said it's a road that leads nowhere. And I've even fallen out with people on the back of that because they showed their true colours as people. But I wouldn't just fall out with someone if they disagreed and they didn't want that. But I wouldn't be cancelled. I don't like the Batman, which I'll be doing a video on that at some point. I'm going to rewatch it. But I wouldn't cancel Matt Reeves' Batman for something else. So I don't get why people get so up in arms about the people who want the Snyderverse back, who are asking for it in alongside the DCU and the Reeves Batverse. Now, that's where my issues come in with some of the people on that side, because I feel like sometimes the bullied can become the bullies and stuff like that, and it's just got a bit out of hand. For me personally, if I'd have took over DC like years ago, I know I'm not a filmmaker or anything, I'd have done everything. I'd have done the Brandon Routh Kingdom Come series on HBO, like a limited series or something. I'd have done Superman and Lois, which was fantastic. I'd have done the Henry Cavill Man of Steel 2. I'd have done, the Snyder Cut. I'd have done the Matt Reeves Batverse. If you wanted to do like several shows, like there was one about the Gotham PD and the Arkham show. Those things are not necessarily happening now, but I'd have just done it all, because for me, the comic book movie bubble has kind of burst a little bit, and I feel like you had to strike while the iron was hot there. And I feel like now it's kind of gone a bit, I feel like CBMs now, and I think cinema in general is kind of on the downtrend a little bit. And I think part of that is because there's been so much fluff and rubbish. And the DCEU was a big example. I've got a video coming out on that at some point as well. That it was just a mess, and they should have stuck with a man's vision and saw it through, and they didn't. So yeah, I think one of the bigger issues is more what people want from Restore the Snyderverse, in terms of like, I don't think you're going to get the Batfleck movie. I don't think you're going to get Justice League 2 and 3. Here's what I would do. Like I said, I was going to say before, if I was in charge. I would have offered Zack a one-film deal. I'd have said, like, right, you finish this universe off with your Snyder's Justice League 2, but it's not the Justice League 2 and 3 we were going to get. And I think people actually have to remember the Justice League 2 and 3 we were going to get that we've seen on the storyboards, and they were wonderfully animated, you know, by Nicotina, etc. That those were not what we would have got because things had changed. Like the whole Bruce Lois subplot had been removed. That was gone. There was a couple of other little things now. And I was actually listening to a podcast on the Snyder films recently, because sometimes I like to just go back, you know, and listen to what people say and stuff. And he said he didn't really want a Justice League 2 where Superman kind of succumbed to anti-life and all that. And I thought, do you know what? I actually kind of agree. And I've long pitched this and I've talked about it online, and some people don't get what I mean. And I've always talked about a legacy sequel. And what I would do is I would do a one-off film where Darkseid comes to Earth, but he waited until they were all older and he wanted them to be weaker. And that's your story. And it's like all the visions that Cyborg saw, that Bruce saw, those do not come to fruition because they changed that when, you know, Flash went back in time and all that, and those things changed as a result of that. I mean, you look at Bruce's nightmare in BVS, that's right before the Flash comes back to warn him he's too early. That changed that trajectory, that time path, in my opinion. So there's all these different alternate futures, and what you do is you basically do what Terminator is, where it's like preventing Judgment Day. This is preventing the apocalypse takeover. And what happens is Darkseid waits till they're all older, then he strikes. Then it's almost like a last stand. So you kind of have the Justice League unite as the older, and then you could even have Bruce make the sacrifice at the end, like you were going to do, and you could do the whole like Lois and Clark's kid, you know, ends up being the new Batman. Or I had an idea where you had Lois and Clark's kid becomes the new Superman, and Bruce and Diana had a kid that becomes the new Batman. But you kind of have a story out there where Bruce and Diana were kind of like a bit estranged, because like after she got pregnant, maybe Bruce kind of were like, well, I don't think I'm good enough for this child, so I'm not going to be in that child's life. And it's kind of a bad way of looking at it, but you kind of almost could have that redemption part, whereas as Bruce is dying, he tells his child, you know, I did it to protect you, blah blah blah. Just an idea anyway. Maybe you could have you know, you could have the new Superman and the new Batgirl instead of the new Batman, and it's like they have a daughter instead. But anyway, that's kind of just fan fiction and stuff. But that's what I would do anyway. I would say to Zach, look, what is the film? We'll give you a decent budget. Here's 3 hours. Make us this Zack Snyder's Justice League. I don't know, what would you call it? Infinite Crisis or something. You know, that's a terrible title by me, by the way. But do offer him something like that to finish it, and then also release the haircut in, you know, in the build up to that. And you've got that build then. And what you do is you keep Superman in the black suit, because that way you show, I mean, I know Henry Cavill and David Corn are twins or anything, but that shows that this is a different version of Superman. And I think we've kind of, and I've said this for a long time, they need to stop acting like the audience is stupid. They understand there can be multiple versions of things. Look at the Spider-Verse film where you had Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland. People weren't confused about which one was Spider-Man. Obviously they explained it in the movie, but that's what you could do. You could even have something where in the Justice League 2 film, you have it so that there's like a line of dialogue about how we've been all these alternate futures, and Barry talks about how he's changed time, and that way you could kind of almost canonize these films that weren't part of the Snyderverse, and it's kind of like an excuse why they were different, because Barry traveled, but he said I always ended up back here. So anyway, of course I've introduced some fan elements there, but I just want to say what, for me, Restore the Snyderverse is not, for me, Batfleck movie, Man of Steel 2, although I love Man of Steel 2. It's not Justice League 2 and 3, we were going to get it. It's giving Zack the chance to finish that story. And as far as I'm concerned, he should get given that opportunity at some point. Maybe now isn't the right time. Maybe it's the right time in 5 years, 10 years, whatever. But I do think that there's such a fan demand for it. And I also think to unite the fan base, you have to give every fan something. So for me, you have Matt Reeves' Batman, you have the DCEU, which obviously we don't know what's going to happen with the, you know, the sale of Warner Brothers. That might complicate things. And then you could have Zack Snyder's Justice League, the final call, whatever you want to call it. Obviously my titles are terrible. Just do it. I don't see the problem. And then what you do is you have make that fan base happy. In fact, they made that fan base happy before the DCU launch. They might have got on board with the DCU. So anyway, I just wanted to do this video because today's November 17th, and obviously it's a very important day for the release of the Snyder Cut. You know, that whole day where Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot tweeted and various others, it was a wonderful day. And obviously May the following year we then got the announcement of the Snyder Cut, and it's a very important day. And I almost feel like you've got to give the fans what they want. And for me, Restore the Snyderverse isn't the same for me as it might be for you, but at least if you get given that opportunity to release the 8 cut and this final film for Zack Snyder to say this is the cap on my story, you've then got a complete story there, and that would go a long way in my opinion. And also release that Batgirl movie, because I don't see the point in it sitting in a vault. They can't have made that much off a tax write-off that they won't make on DVD and Blu-ray releases and digital releases, etc. But anyway, that's not really Snyderverse. But yeah, so yeah, that's my thoughts on Restore the Snyderverse. What do you think? And I don't, if you're going to be in the comments and say just be horrible, then just maybe don't comment. But please just let me know what you think of it. And if you're not interested in it, you don't have to watch it if it happens. But don't push some fans away and don't say, oh, you can't have what you want, and then mock them and say, oh, the universe is dead and all that. Well, no, universe is dead, because like, if I want to watch the Christopher Reeve films, the Tim Burton Batman films, the Snyder films, they're all in my cupboard in there, so I can watch them anytime I want. So yeah, so anyway, that was a quick thought. As I say, I'd like to see what you think. And then I've got some more videos on the way, as I said before. They'll be out soon. I haven't recorded them yet, but I will do soon. And until then, keep being super.